What is happening, everybody? Today is June 29th, 2025, when we are doing or going over, I guess, so to speak, the draft that we just wrapped up for the Devy, my first Devy that I have done this year, and first Devy that I have ever done. So that will be an interesting talk. If you guys are new here, make sure you all like and subscribe. I am currently putting together a list of the Devy order that will be in the description below. So you guys don't have to go hunting for the order in which the Devy picks went. So that makes life a lot easier for you guys as well. I'm doing a lot of cleanup at the moment, literally as I'm speaking. So if you guys see me kind of going down, up and down with my eyes, that is why. For some odd reason, Sleeper has been a little bit odd the last few weeks in showing me the pinned chat. So I figured it'd be easier to make this in the description of the video and kind of give you guys an idea of what it currently looks like in the landscape out there right now. So apologies if I misspell something or something like that. I literally just took it from the league that we're in and copy pasted it and took out all the names, which is currently what I'm doing right now as we speak. So it's a clean list, so you guys don't have to really go looking for the order and which Devy picks went. So if you're interested in seeing that, it will be in the description down below, and you can kind of see in the rankings as well where these picks went. We will be looking at them here shortly. I am finishing this list literally as we speak. Once I finish this list, hopefully we can get into the draft, dive in, and we can kind of start talking about some teams and some builds and how everything looks at the end of this draft, because there was some things that I felt like were reaches. There was some things that I felt like were steals of the draft. I do feel like there was quite a bit of differences between these. And I also will be doing another one of these probably in a few weeks. I'm in another Devy league as well, doing a startup. So if you guys are interested in getting into a Devy league, please, please, please make sure y'all drop a comment. I'm going to try to get a Discord server started as well, and kind of go from there on that, because I think that would be fun. Let's see. I think I am missing a few picks here. I don't know that the list is totally updated, but it does have 70 of them. So at least you have 70 of them listed here. I don't believe I'm missing the important ones, but I did go ahead and save that in the description of this video. So if you guys are new here, greatly appreciate having you. First off, second of all, we did put the order down there. It is it's 70 roughly prospects in a row. But yeah, we're gonna get started here pretty soon. I'm gonna crack open a drink real quick. So we're going to kind of get a little bit of an intro going here. But if you guys are new here, as I said, drop a like and let's get into it. I've been muted this entire time. That is so unfortunate because I've been yapping on and on. All right, let's start over. Hi guys. um anyway, we're gonna cut that out. We're gonna go over the teams. I'm gonna read them in order, and kind of go from there and give you my analysis of what I think are the best picks and the worst picks on the board. Nice little rookie mistake to start off, but anyways, so Rashee Rice. Back to what I was talking about. Rashee Rice is probably my favorite pick of this guy's first 8 picks. Reason being, has wide receiver 1 upside. At times, he's been up here with Puka Nacua, Drake London, even these guys that are at the top here, Jefferson, Jamar. He's produced at that level. And at this point, he's only 25 years old, and it's very rare we see a guy's value in redraft be higher than it is in Dynasty. And Rashee Rice is the very one person that I feel like that is for. And the reason being is just because of his off-field stuff. He has a lot of the lawsuit things going on with the car accident that happened. He has off-field injury that he's coming back from. So a lot of things off the field that we just don't know what's going to happen with him. And I feel like that is playing a big factor into his value right now, currently being in the 4th round, which this is typically where you see him go as the 4th round. The last draft I saw him go in the 409 that I'm currently in. This draft he goes in the 401. So I mean, this is roughly about the range you're looking to get him in. And I think it's too cheap personally. I would be pushing this up to the 3rd round, but I just haven't had the chance to do it. And I really like Rashee Rice a lot. I think this is a guy who is tethered to an offense that is an elite level offense. And personally, tethered to Mahomes, that's something that isn't a lose possibility at all, in my opinion. Obviously, Mahomes is the quarterback for the foreseeable future. And it's like he's the number 1 option there. I get there's a little bit more competition there as well with Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Travis Kelce still around. But I don't see him being not the number 1 option and getting a consistent share of the offense. It just makes too much sense. He's too good, essentially. Now, what I was explaining while I was muted was my least favorite picks, which was the Joe Mixon, David Montgomery picks. I feel like taking 1 or 2 of these guys is just unnecessary. In a Dynasty startup and a Devy startup, you are wanting to build the best value possible. And I feel like Joe Mixon at the 712, Monty at the 801 is simply put not drafting for value. It's drafting for now, which I guess is a strategy. It's not one that I take in startups. And I don't advise you guys to take them in startups either. Reason being is you can always make trades later. That's always an option, and I will always encourage tradings. So that's a big thing for me is trading to get value in these startups is huge. If you can trade away some value to gain some value back, you could use that value later on and maybe turn it into something better. Who knows? But yeah, that's kind of probably my least favorite picks. I'm going to try, like I said, to go in order here with the picks, the Devy picks. So I have my phone on me as well. So don't think I'm just looking down trying to, ignore you guys. So the Devy picks here at the 9, 12, 10, 01 was Drew Allar and Antonio Williams. Not bad. I mean, Allar has a lot to show this year, I feel like. Hasn't lived up to the potential. Let's put it that way. That a lot of people thought Allar was going to. I think Allar is a very talented quarterback. I think he hasn't been surrounded very well at Penn State. And I don't think you can argue that Warren was good, but that's really the only good weapon he has had, in my opinion, that has been NFL ready. And there's a lot of work there in Penn State as weapons go that need to happen. And I feel like this year they did a little bit better to get him a little bit of weapons. But I think Allar is a guy who's going to need some weapons to actually be able to realize his full potential. I do know he was a 5-star recruit. There's a lot of good about Allar. There's a lot of things there. There's a lot of throws that he makes that are really good. I just feel like there's a lot of things there potentially that are really good. So I think the 9-12 is a pretty good spot for him. Antonio Williams, I think he's fine. I don't think he's the best guy in that room, but I do think he is fine. I'm not a huge Antonio Williams advocate. So, it's a fine pick. I think if you like him, that's a good spot for him. But that's kind of where I'm at with Antonio Williams. Moving on with his team, we see his tight end is David Njoku, which I'm a huge Njoku guy. If you can't get an elite tight end early, then take Njoku because there's really no going wrong with him. He gets a very big share of his offense's targets. I think it was roughly 27-28% when I did do the math on it. I'm not going to do the math on it now, but this is just me talking as an overview of this draft and kind of showing you guys what a board looks like on Devy. DeAndre Swift, Tyrone Tracy. I do like the Tracy pick. I like Tracy a little bit more than Scatabo this year. I think Tracy could also be a long-term option and then kind of a fun option too. Like, because he started out kind of as a wideout, right? And then he transitions to running back really this year or this last year of college. So he hasn't really had a whole lot of experience at running back. He showed a lot of upside this past year. I think he does obviously need help with ball security, but I do think he is a very good option at running back. I don't think there's something necessarily wrong with this pick. I just think that he's not a very long-term play. Like I said, once again, a very win-now play, which he's making a lot of those bets here. And I understand it to a certain extent, but I feel like you got to get some guys that are younger too. But you got Allar, he got Antonio Williams, but he's not really helping his running back crew. But here, when we get to this 1401, we could start talking about him and how he starts helping his running back crew. So at the 1401, he does take Jonah Coleman, which Jonah Coleman has been rising up people's dynasty or Devy rankings quite a bit. And then after that, he goes Eugene Wilson and Dante Moore, quarterback from Oregon. That's one of his, I think he has 2 more Devy picks after that. So really, overall, it's a pretty good draft, I would say. But a lot of win now pieces up top here, which is okay. It's just you're going to have to be prepared that if it doesn't work, that you're going to have to start selling and kind of start taking the discount on those guys to winning teams whenever the time comes. Rashid Shaheed, Rashad Bateman, those are just dart throws. 1912, this was Fernando Mendoza, quarterback. And I don't really know much about him. I'm not going to lie. I believe that is his last Devy pick. Yes. So that would be his last Devy pick is Fernando Mendoza in the 12th. And there's kind of the rest of what his draft looks like. I'm just kind of showing it off. I'm not going to break down guys after round 20. I don't really see a reason to, unless they're Devy rookies, which even some of these guys are just shots at this point anyways. So that's kind of my general consensus on this. Let's see. What's up, brother? It's Figo from your other Devy. What's up? What's up? How we doing? Hope all is well. Hope all is well. Moving on to the next team. So we had a few trades in this one for this team. Not a whole lot, obviously. We have Jaden Daniels at the 102, which he got a pretty good a discount here. We'll put it that way. I'm not going to say pretty good discount because it's not, but Jamar Chase going at the 101 was definitely something interesting that nobody, I don't think, expected. But anyways, Drake London, Marv Harrison, pretty good receivers to start there at the top. Young core here. Travion Henderson, Caleb Johnson at the 5'11". Feels a little rich for my blood, but I get it. I'm okay with taking Caleb Johnson there if you believe in the prospect. The team build kind of shows that he's drafting young anyways to start. He does have a pretty young core here. Jaden, Marv, Drake, Travion, Caleb Johnson, Bryce Young. I like the young core. Bryce Young, I think, showed a lot of upside last season. And going into this year, I think it's only going to get better. He got Tet. They have Adam Thielen coming back. They have Leggett. They have Coker, which I'm a huge fan of. They have a lot of pieces there. Jatavion Sanders, Chuba Hubbard in another year. And I think this team is a solid team, honestly, offensively speaking. Defensively speaking, they have a lot of work to do. Offensively speaking, I think this is going to be a much improved team this year. I like drafting Panthers a little cheap. I think, honestly, their offense could be in the top half this year at the highest upside. I do think it's a good pick. Moving on, we see DJ Moore go off the board. DJ Moore is kind of one of those guys. It's kind of like, okay, it's not really anything to talk much about, but as a wide receiver 3, it's fine. Mason Crosby, Blankenship, we see those picks. Those are his first Devy picks, which I am going to look at now. So his first Devy pick would be Jordyn Tyson off the board. And then he also has taken, let's see, Garret Nussimier. So quarterback from LSU and Tyson from USC. No, the Sun Devils. My mistake. Tyson, really good receiver, has overcome quite a bit to get back on the field. Just to get back on the field. Has done a lot of rehab, sat out 23, came back, transferred, and here we are with Tyson. I mean, 1,100-yard season, looked really good. Paired up with Sam Levitt, I think this year is a breakout year for both of them. I really like Jordyn Tyson as a prospect. I think he's one of the better receivers coming out next year. If he might be the best receiver coming out next year. We'll talk about another guy here in a little bit, but I think he might be one of the better guys coming out next year. Definitely top 3, in my opinion, coming out next year as far as receivers go. That's not really saying a whole lot with the class being the way it is. But moving on from Tyson, Garret Nussimier. I think Nussimier honestly might be one of the biggest busts that comes out of college. I just don't really know how good he truly will translate to the NFL. And it's going to take getting drafted to the right system. I guess a lot of these guys are. But it feels like to me he has good arm talent. He knows who he is. He doesn't really play outside of who he is. And I feel like that's something that isn't great for development. Like, I feel like he's already kind of at his peak anyways. So we know what he is. That could be a good and a bad thing, in my opinion. There's not really a whole lot of room for growth. So that kind of is concerning a little bit to me. I don't like to draft guys at their ceilings, and I feel like this is a drafting at their ceiling kind of pick. But then again, everybody has their opinion. So it's Devy leagues at the end of the day. You know, everybody's got an opinion. It is what it is. Cam Scatabo, Jaden Reed, and let's see who that other pick is right there. That would be Jaden Ott, running back. I do like Jaden Ott quite a bit. He's going to help that offense quite a bit this season, and I feel like he's going to be a good running back, a good help. I'm pretty sure he was a transfer as well. So he's going to be a fun running back to see kind of grow this year and see what he can do, and kind of go from there. Freiermuth as your tight end 1 to me is a little rough in a half point, especially if it's 1 point, maybe. But I'm not really a huge Freiermuth guy. He is 26 years old. He is the weapon number 2 for Aaron Rodgers. I'm not really a huge fan of him in Devy or Dynasty. I think this year he'll be okay, but after that, it's going to be, I don't know. I don't know what happens to Freiermuth. Kyle Williams is one of my smash picks that I just love at this range. 1402, getting him in the 14th round is just absurd. I almost took him at the 13-10 here, but I'll explain why I didn't when we get to me in my draft. But yeah, this is a smash home run pick right here. Jalen Milroe at the 15-11, that's a pretty good pick as well. Marvin Mims, Garendo, Cedric Tillman, Elijah Arroyo at the 19-11, Ben Sinnott at the 20-02, and then we can kind of go through and see the rest of his rookie picks here. The rest of his, Devy picks, I should say. So the rest of his Devy picks are Oscar Delp, tight end. I'm currently scrolling looking for this. Let's see. This is really hard to read. Oscar Delp and Dane Key. Dane Key, wide receiver, was his last one down here with Matt Prater. No, it doesn't show it on here. Never mind. I was going to say we put league notes on every kicker to see what they were. But yeah, this is what his team looks like. Overall, not a bad draft, I don't believe either. A lot of these guys were pretty sharp. So a lot of movement going on here. So we're going to try to keep up here. A lot of trades, once again, happened with this. Josh Allen at the 103. Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, back-to-back. Probably wouldn't ever do this in a Devy league or Dynasty league for me personally. Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Dak Prescott, Derrick Henry, Ricky Pearsall at the 901. Let's see. Who does he end up taking? So that would be Cam Coleman, wide receiver from Auburn. Probably up there with Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith at the end of this year, I would hope. I do love this guy. I think he's getting him at an extreme value here at the 901. Kaime Fairbairn, that would be... I do apologize that I'm pausing between picks here. TJ Moore, so another elite receiver in the 27 class. So he does get 2 pretty elite receivers in the 27 class. So that is pretty big for him. And then he takes Cade Klubnik here with the Jake Moody selection. So Cade Klubnik, TJ Moore, and Cam Coleman going off the board 3 straight here after drafting a pretty old start to begin with. Gets some pretty upside rookies here in the 27 class. So he's probably hoping that these guys all last at least a couple years, which they should, I would think. The only ones I'd be severely worried about is McCaffrey and Henry, maybe Saquon, but this is a very win-now-esque team. Michael Pittman off the board. Romo, who would that be? That is Nate Frazier, another 27 class running back from Georgia. Pretty good talent there in Georgia. Not as usually the Georgia running backs don't succeed as well at the NFL level, but we've seen a few pop. There has been some, but recently we haven't really seen a great one. Sam Darnold, 1306, Zach Charbonnet, 1403, Travis Kelce at the 1503, A-Rich, Debo, J.K. Dobbins, Tank Bigsby, Brenton Strange. We have the 1910 pick here as well. Let's see. That would be Dallas Wilson. And then Coker, Douglas, which I already talked a little bit about Coker. I do like Coker quite a bit. He's one of my favorite picks. So, and then the last one is Quentin Joins, running back. So those are his Devy picks. This is kind of what his team looks like. Overall, not really how I would do a Devy league, but to each their own. I think it's a little bit old of a team. I do think he's going to struggle a little bit after the first year or two. I don't know. This is not how I would build a Devy league for me personally. Not very well balanced, in my opinion. Not a lot of young guys, a lot of old guys, a lot of win now guys. It's going to be hard to put a team out on the field in 3 years. And it's going to be a pretty bad team in 3 years. So not really how I would build. This is probably one of my least favorite teams in the Devy league. But to each their own. He probably might win this year. And if he doesn't win, I'm sure it's probably going to be a train wreck after this year. That's just my opinion. To each their own. Lamar Jackson, Puka Nacua, Baker Mayfield, Sam Laporta. We do see Arch Manning go off the board here at the 509 spot. And then following it up with Ryan Williams. So 2 very elite guys that I would say are coming out in 2027. We don't know that from Arch Manning for sure, but we do know that for Ryan Williams in 2027. So some pretty elite prospects there coming for this team. Starting Lamar at the 104 is an extreme value for most. Puka Nacua, getting him at the 209, that is also an extreme value that I personally would not have let slide. I tried to deal. I'd already dealed up at this point, so I was not going to deal back down for Puka Nacua. But that is an extreme value for Puka Nacua. Baker Mayfield at the 309 might have been a little bit of a reach for me personally. Not a big Baker advocate this year. I do think he's going a little bit earlier than most would like to see him go. He's already the age of 30. Usually 30 means downward trend for a lot of quarterbacks. I don't think Baker's really going towards a downward trend, but I don't know that he's worth the 309 over guys like Kyler, over Purdy. I'm not taking him over those guys personally. I'd rather have both those guys. Sam Laporta, Aubrey, we've already talked about those rookie picks. Ryan Williams, I can't express enough how excited I am to see him come out. He made Milroe look like amazing. So I'm kind of anxious to see what his season looks like this year. Chuba Hubbard as your RB1. Obviously, there's going to be a weakness here. If you like every other position, RBs are going to be the position that this guy chose to kind of slack off on, so to speak. And honestly, Chuba Hubbard as an RB1 isn't the worst thing in the world. You see, he does follow it up with Connor Pollard, Jordan Mason a little bit later. So he does get some guys to fill out his depth here with some vets. He gets Evans and Godwin to fill out the Tampa Bay stack. He has Addison as well, Devontae Adams. So he does get some very seasoned vets here. Connor, Pollard, Mason, a lot of vets there. And then he follows it up with another 3 Devy picks here, which I am going to find real quickly here. Let's see. So Makai Hughes, Isaac Brown are 2 of them. And then the last one there is Jaden Grayhouse. So pretty good follow-up there with the rookies. Well, I keep calling them rookies, but Devy picks. Isaac Brown is a prospect that I really like. Good running back, solid profile. I think that he's a guy that can definitely, if he gets in the right situation, it's hard to really say much about running backs just because it's so situationally based that it feels like, guys like Bucky Irving ended up in the right situation that really didn't have exceptional profiles. And you sit here and think about it, it really just depends on their situation. I feel like with a lot of these guys, for them to thrive, so to speak. But yeah, this is this team. This is kind of what it looks like. That's the last rookie pick that Devy pick that he had was at the 20 spot, which was John Mateer. I'm excited to see what Mateer can do in the new offense. I'm very, very, very excited to see that. It's gonna be fun to see what he can do. I'm anxious. Being from Indiana, it's gonna be fun. So yeah, moving on, we have Cat with a Headband. He starts off with Bowers, Burrow, Mahomes, which pretty good start. Doesn't get a receiver here. Breece Hall, Ken Walker, James Cook, and his first receiver is DK Metcalf at the 707. Jerry Jeudy at the 805. TJ Hawkinson at the 806. Khalil Shakir, Josh Downs, Kyle Pitts, Matt Stafford, Jacoby Myers. The first thing I want to say about this team is he kind of filled out his roster with everybody that's in the NFL currently, which is fine. In the start 10, I feel like you can kind of get away with taking a few Devy picks and filling out your roster in the first 12 rounds. But, I could be wrong in a start 10 especially. I do feel like it's very viable to do. I did not like the fact that he didn't get a receiver until the 707. That to me is a way too late to be drafting your first receiver. And with your first receiver being DK Metcalf, that kind of feels like a lost pick. DK Metcalf is not a guy who's going to rise in value. If anything, he's going to fall. Jerry Jeudy, it's fine. He's 26 years old. Not bad. He's in one of the worst situations in the NFL. It's okay. His value could rise. Downs is a guy I really like. He has a lot of upside, especially if Daniel Jones is the quarterback here. Josh Downs could be a very big value here. I do feel like his long-term outlook is pretty good. He is your typical slot receiver, though. He's not going to be much more than that. I do think Downs is one of my favorite prospects. He was coming out, and I really like him. He's good at route running. He's good. He's got good speed. He's a good stretcher. Pretty good route run. Okay route running. But yeah, really good receiver, in my opinion. He just ended up with the Colts. So you can't really say much with this quarterback situation right now. It's not very good. Khalil Shakir, 10-11, not a guy who's going to raise value. If anything, it's going to lower in value. Not really a huge Khalil Shakir fan. Kyle Pitts, I don't really have to say a whole lot with Kyle Pitts, but I do want to say something about Kyle Pitts. I feel like Kyle Pitts at the 11th round, 12th round is an okay swing, especially if you want to buy his rookie season as maybe his only healthy season. I get it. His 2022 season, I'm not really sure. 10 games, he gets the injury, comes back, hasn't been the same since. I get it. He's not really got a new offense there. There's going to be a new offense there, and I feel like that's a little bit more promising, so to speak. I feel like that's a lot more promising for Pitts and London. So we'll see what happens in that offense this year. I think Pitts is a very swing for the fence kind of pick, especially as your third tight end. I feel like it's okay here. If he's your third tight end, there's no reason you shouldn't be doing this. Matthew Stafford at 1205, Myers at 1308, and then we see 4 straight rookie picks from him, which I need to go look and see what those are really quickly here. So we see him go Sam Levitt, Evan Stewart, Zachariah Branch, Tavion St. Clair, and the last is Khalil Lockett, wide receiver. Oh, and Eli Stover. Sorry, tight end Eli Stover is the last one. So I kind of went through his rookie picks here. They're all kind of right here in a row. Overall, I'm going to talk about a couple of those guys because there's a couple of those guys I want to speak on. I kind of already touched on Sam Levitt. But Sam Levitt is a guy that I feel like has quite a bit of upside, and he's one of my favorite QBs in the class for next year. And I think that he honestly could be a better NFL player than Klubnik. I don't know, but Klubnik to me is just, I've been watching quite a bit of content and consuming quite a bit of content and kind of watching him myself. The height thing is always a worry with me. I know I think he's like 6'1". That's not as bad as Bryce Young, but the level of talent that he has is about that level, and it kind of worries me a little bit. And he's been surrounded by a lot of really good weapons. So it makes me wonder, is it him making the weapons, or is it the weapons making him? And him being one of the early picks in the draft, I feel like it's going to be a tough situation regardless of where he goes. So that's kind of where I'm at with Klubnik. I feel like Levitt's going to be thrown into a better situation if he gets to start. So that's kind of where I'm at. He takes Daniel Jones, Aaron Rodgers here, once again, adding more old picks into his portfolio. Jonathan Brooks, Roman Wilson, Tank Dell, Michael Wilson, Christian Watson at the 26th round. Who remembers when this guy was a top 10 round pick? Christian Watson. Cameron Dyke, or Chamari Dyke. I don't know why I said Cameron. J.C. Horn, Juwan Johnson. I honestly Kanata Mumpfield. I honestly don't know who this is. So his bag's a little bit deeper than mine. Deshaun Watson, Gardner Minshew, Jake Browning. Overall, not really great receivers. I don't really like to draft that way either. I want receivers on my team, and I want a lot of them. They're very easy. They're a lot easier to trade than any other position. And I feel like he didn't get receivers here. Not necessarily how I would draft, not saying there's something wrong with this. But going tight end, quarterback, running back just is not how I would go. So that's just where I'm at with this. DK Metcalf, once again, not really my cup of tea of a guy who I would take here. I would even take Pickens over DK Metcalf. And the reason I say that is because at least with Pickens, he's 24 years old, has a chance to gain some upside this season. He signs a long-term deal with Dallas. That's also a good outlook for him and Dak Prescott. So, it makes me feel like there's more upside there with a guy like that, or even Addison. If Addison gets tired of being in Minnesota and wants to break off and go be a one somewhere, you have the upside of at least that happening rather than kind of sitting here on DK Metcalf for 1 year with Rodgers, and then God only knows who the quarterback is next year because they did sign him for a long-term deal. So we don't know who the quarterback will be next year. Maybe it's one of these rookie guys that you believe in. Maybe it is Klubnik. Could be if they have a really bad year this year. But you're more than likely looking at a 27 class running back like DJ Lagway, Arch Manning, those kinds of guys. You're going to have to wait at least 2 years to get a quarterback in that room. After this Rodgers year. And I don't know how I feel about that. So, moving on to A. Freeman. He did deal his first-round pick to me, which I'll talk about what I gave up for that in a little bit, which you can kind of already see what I gave up. I gave up Ladd McConkey and J.J. McCarthy to get Malik Neighbors, and I want to say Alvin Kamara. So, not a horrible give up for me, I feel like. Neighbors is a lot better than Ladd and JJ as a whole, and then just getting Kamara was like a cherry on top. But anyways, starts off with Trey McBride at the 208. I don't think that's a value. I think that's about spot on where he should go. Bucky Irving, Ladd McConkey, and then we see the very first pick, Jeremiah Smith, off the board with Devy at the 405. I think that's about where I would have him. Maybe it's a little early, but that's probably about where I would have him because I'd have him probably ahead of Tet. I'd have him ahead of – I don't think I could put him ahead of Rice. Now, A.J. Brown, I think, went a little early, so I would probably have him ahead of A.J. Brown. That's about it. I start kind of thinking about him with Nico Collins. JSN, I'd take over him. I think that's about the range of where I would be with him, so I think this is about right. Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy as his quarterbacks. Then we see Terry McLaurin off the board, Luther Burden, Jackson Dart, Cortland Sutton, Isaiah Likely, Isaiah Pacheco. And then we see his second Devy pick, which doesn't come for quite some time, it seems. And his second Devy pick is... Sorry that I am looking for his name. Jacoby Lane, wide receiver. Not a bad receiver pick there. Tajay Spears. And then we see another one come off the board for him, which, let's see, which would be Nick Anderson from LSU. Is it LSU? Yeah. Stephon Diggs. 1707, which is good value, honestly, for a guy who's contending or a guy who wants to contend. Diggs at the 17th round is an extremely good value. I feel like he still has a couple years in the tank, but I could be wrong, as always. Then we get Malik Washington off the board, and then we also see did I totally skip one? No. Nick Anderson, Malik Washington. So this might be one that we missed. I don't know who these two are, but we can find out. Holton, Torrey Holton, Tavion Sanders, Brashard Smith, which I was a big fan of Brashard Smith coming out, and he just didn't end up in a very good situation. He ended up in a mess, we'll say, in the backfield. Hunter Henry in the 24th round. This is a guy who can still put up 10 points a week, 15, maybe 15 points sometimes, especially with Drake May. I feel like that's a really good value. Isaac Tesla is probably going to be a special teams guy this year. He's probably a 2-year out kind of guy. Arion Smith is a guy for the Jets that I really like out of Georgia. Pretty fast. Also, there's not really a lot of guys behind Garrett Wilson, so there's not really a fair shake on who the receiver 2 or 3 are going to be as far as that goes. So I could see Arion Smith eventually competing with Lazard and Reynolds to get the receiver 2 spot. Do I think it's going to be immediate? No. But I do think it is a very high upside pick at that round, especially. I'm not going to spend too long on that. Jalen Lane, pretty decent rookie. Will Shipley, back up to Saquon. Chisholm's getting a lot of hype out of camp, and I don't know how much of it is really warranted. He's fine, but I don't know how much of it is really warranted or makes much sense to me. Isaiah Davis and then Cam Miller off the board with the last round. So overall, I don't think this is one of my least favorites, but I don't think it's one of my favorites either. So far, really, realistically speaking, I think my favorite pick or favorite team so far is probably DJames here that I've done, or Sawyer. Sawyer got a lot of good value and got good vets and got replaceable guys for the vets in a couple years. So that to me feels like a really good team, a really strong team. But I haven't gotten to the rest of the teams yet, so let's go ahead and continue. D. Parton didn't have any picks in the first 2 rounds. So I'm not really a big fan of doing this. I get it. The value is huge when you can get all these middle round guys and kind of scrape them together. I'm not really – if you don't have a pick in the first 2 rounds, you don't really have a stud, in my opinion. But anyways, let's just keep going. Devon Achane, Marion Hampton, Jordyn Love, Travis Hunter in the 408, which is pretty good value, all things considered. I think these two became good value. Rome Odunze at the 506, T. Higgins at the 508, which T. Higgins at the 508 is insane. Tyler Warren, 510. And then we see he doesn't have a 6th round. Justin Fields, Emeka Egbuka. And then we see his Devy picks go off the board here. So the Devy picks for Mr. Parton are Carnell Tate, Carnell Tate, Bryant Wesco, Decorion Moore, Nico Iamaleava is what I'm gonna just say that. I don't know how to say his last name, but I'm just gonna say Iamaleava. I don't know if that's right or not, but I know who he is, but I don't know how to say his last name. And let's see, Micah Hudson. And I believe that's all of his rookie picks. So let's see. How far is Ryan Williams going after Jeremiah Smith? So good question. I'm just gonna leave it popped up here. So in ours, in this league, we saw Jeremiah Smith go at the 405, Ryan Williams go at the 604. In the Devy League that I'm currently drafting, we saw Jeremiah Smith go at the 210, or no, Arch Manning go at the 210, Jeremiah Smith go at the 211, and Ryan Williams go at the 310. So I think that's extremely early, by the way. I'm just going to be honest. That is way too early for me to take those guys. But it seems like they're going about a round apart in startups, at least from what I've seen. It's been kind of common theme, about a round to a round and a half. Do I think it should be that much? Probably not. I think it should be a little closer than that. But I also understand that Jeremiah Smith is a guy that a lot of people really haven't seen before. Very good prospect, nonetheless. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. So going back to Parkton's team, D. Parkton's team. Good question though, Callum. Welcome in. I hope you're enjoying the stream. We have Jack Besh. Obviously another Devy pick. We already read those off. Tyler Shuck, Jalen Knoll, Braylon Allen, Xavier Leggett, Adonai Mitch. I love this slew of receivers here that he took. I love Jalen Knoll. I love Leggett. I love Adonai Mitchell. I love Wan'Dale Robinson. I like a lot of what he did right there at the end. I'm not a huge fan of the start, but I like what he did at the end. Corum, Ollie Gordon, Troy Franklin. I'm not really going to read these names off because they're kind of nothing names. Overall, I think it's fine for what he got. As far as not having a first round pick or a second round pick, once again, not really a huge fan of that because you don't really have a stud to be trying to trade if you want for any of these studs in this first couple rounds here. And it feels like, your depth isn't really that amazing either. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's your first 10 Jack Beshes in your starting lineup. So that to me is a little rough, but I understand it. It's not horrible. I still think you have one person in your group here, and you got to start at Buka, which probably isn't amazing either. I get it. It's like a 1-year kind of punt kind of deal where you're hoping some of these guys pan out, and then next year you're contending. So it kind of makes sense to me because you do take Justin Fields, who is on a 2-year deal. So you're hoping Fields is the guy there for a couple years. That's kind of where I feel his team is like a 1-year punt kind of team. And you're hoping that some of these rookies from this class pan out. That's this current class that just came in. Moving on to RS412. We have Jefferson, Drake May, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, Nico Collins at the 302, Nico Collins at the 302 is an insane value. I don't know how Herbert gets pushed up to the 206 here. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. That to me is extremely high. And I think that kind of caused all this. Caleb Williams at the 204 is high as well. So I think that's a lot of the issues here is like Mahomes falling to the 207 is kind of crazy. There's a lot of falling here happening. But anyways, Nico Collins at 302, JSN at 305, Chase Brown, Jared Goff, RJ Harvey, Jamison Williams, Trey Harris, and then his Devy picks. Let me get the sleeper app open here. RS412. He took Caden Durham, running back, Nick Marsh, wide receiver, which Nick Marsh is a fun one, by the way. Patrick Mahomes wannabe, Dylan Raiola, quarterback. Let's see. Who else did he take? Kevin Conception, wide receiver, and Trey Wisner, running back. So those were his Devy picks. Moving on, Jake Ferguson, Mason Taylor, Jaden Blue, which there's quite a bit of guys here. The tight end room, Jake Ferguson, Mason Taylor. I like that as like I punted on tight end, so I'm just going to wait until the 13th round to get one. Jake, I like a lot as a bounce back candidate. Mason Taylor, I love for the upside swing. I think it makes a lot of sense. Ray Davis, Dylan Sampson, Jalen Royals is another guy that's really fun. So is Elick A. Minor. Ayo Manor. God bless. I struggle with his name sometimes. Elick is another guy that I really like. Joe Milton. Kyle Menanje. I don't know how to say his name either. Good running back from Chicago, by the way. I think that this guy could have a chance to be kind of a receiving back role this year. He's been getting a lot of praise from Ben Johnson. I do think he has a chance to take over Roshan's spot, but I think Roshan's just too good personally. I don't know that I'm not a big Swift guy. You guys will learn. And I feel like Swift is one of those guys that I wish they would have just let go or not brought back or traded or just literally anything, did anything with him. I'm not a big Swift guy. Gunnar Helm, Damian Martinez, Nick Nash from San Jose State, Phelan, Lambert. Nothing really exciting here, honestly. But yeah, kind of his team breakdown there. That's kind of what it looks like. Lars, we have him not really trading much here. There was like 1 or 2 trades for him. Nothing too crazy. I am going to read his Devy picks before we start here. We have Makai Lemon off the board first for him. Then we have Eric Singleton Jr. Then we have Julian Sayin from Ohio State. Harlem Berry, running back. And then his last last two picks were Terry Bussey and Gideon Davidson. So those were his Devy picks. Keep that in mind. Ashton Jeanty, Caleb Williams is a great start. It's an interesting one because it doesn't take a receiver until the third round, which is Garret Wilson. I'm not a big proponent for Garret Wilson. I honestly took Tet over Garret Wilson in the most recent Devy that I did. Garret Wilson is a very talented receiver. Don't get me wrong. I think he's exceptional. But the comments of him wanting to be a Jet for life, and then Justin Fields is just not really a throwing quarterback. I get his target share is going to go to Garret Wilson most of the time because there's nobody else. But good grief, man. I don't love Garret Wilson at all. I feel like that's a floor play rather than a ceiling play. I don't know that there's really a ceiling for Garret Wilson to ever really get in the tier of these guys. And that to me is like a big red flag, especially in Devy and Dynasty format, because he's already 24 going on 25. And it's just not great because once you hit 25, you're starting to say, okay, this guy could drop to the DJ Moore range here in a year or two. So we're saying this guy could be in this range in a year. I don't love that. At least with a guy like Tet, you know that there's more upside there because they're growing with Bryce. And with Travis, same thing. There's more growth there that can be had. I just don't know that Justin Fields is really the long-term solution for the Jets. And I don't really love Garret Wilson as where his price is currently. I think Garret Wilson, more properly priced, would be a little bit more fun. I think he should be a fourth-round selection, maybe even a fifth. Not necessarily Odunze level, because I don't think he's as bad as Odunze, but I do think that Odunze's situation is a lot better than his. As far as quarterback play, obviously target share is not even close, but I don't think he should be going back-to-back with JSN and Ladd McConkey. I would take McConkey over him pretty easily. I would take JSN over him pretty easily. I would take Rashee Rice over him pretty easily. Those are three guys I feel like I would take over him relatively easily. Tet, I feel like, is pretty even with him. I feel like him and Tet are pretty close. So wherever Tet goes, I feel like he should go. I feel like those guys are kind of back-to-back to me. But anyways, Judkins at the 409. The more I watch Judkins in camp, the more I'm falling in love with this guy. I think he has a chance to be up there as an RB1 with Jeanty. I don't want to say he's just as good as Jeanty because I don't believe that, but I feel like his situation, the volume he's going to receive, and just the quality of work that he gets is going to be up there with Jeanty this year. So yeah, Trevor Lawrence. A lot of people have been steaming Trevor Lawrence here. Trevor Lawrence has a lot of upside. Cohen's there, and they got Travis Hunter. They have Brian Thomas Jr. Etienne, I'm anticipating for a bounce back year this year. I really like the Lawrence pick. I do think Lawrence is a very good quarterback. I do think Lawrence has been severely just done wrong in the NFL. Hasn't really had a good coach there to help him, to teach him. The talent is all there still. The talent hasn't gone anywhere. I do think Lawrence, I'm a Lawrence believer. He still is only 25 years old. And I just think like he's very talented. This guy is a winner. This guy never really lost a lot in college, or didn't lose really at all in college. In high school, didn't lose. And this guy's not used to losing. He's a winner. And that's one thing I look for in guys like quarterbacks. Trevor Lawrence is just a guy that I really like. Loveland is another guy that's really good. I think he's got good potential in that offense with Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze. I don't think DJ Moore is going to be there long term, but I think Loveland has plenty of room to grow in that offense. Cole Kmet couldn't really thrive in that offense. I think a lot of that was coaching too, because I do still like Cole Kmet. But at the end of the day, Loveland's going to get the opportunity. That's who Ben Johnson wanted, so that's who he got. Jalen Waddle, I don't really know what Waddle is at this point. Going on 27 years old, kind of getting to that age where it's like he's not really a rebuild guy anymore. He's more of a contend now piece, and he's not really that good without Tua on the field. And even with Tua on the field, he hasn't been all that great. So it's kind of rough for me to do him right now and say what he really is. I do think he can still be a good receiver 2 for a team sometimes. I just don't really love that he is this guy's wide receiver 2. Sorry, y'all, I had to get a drink. Matthew Golden at the 809. I do like Matthew Golden. I just prefer Jaden Reed at price a lot more in the 12th round, personally. I think he's a lot better priced than Golden. I think Golden's extremely expensive for what he is. Jaden Higgins at the 904. That is an extremely good pick. Jaden Higgins is the wide receiver 2, unquestioned in the Houston offense. Big body. I like these big body receivers. I think they have a lot more potential to be booms not booms rather than busts, so to speak. But I think they have a lot more potential to boom higher and they have a lot more potential to bust lower. So with that being said, I've already said his Devy picks. Travis Etienne, once again, buys him. Calvin Ridley, one of my favorite picks in the 13th round, by the way. Calvin Ridley is a guy, 30 years old. I get it. Age is there. I get it. He also was out for 2 years, basically. So 2 of these years, just take him. I won't say just take him off, but you just as well take him off. I mean, 2 years he wasn't even playing. Let's be honest with ourselves. This is his 6th year in the NFL. I'm just pointing it out there. 6'1", 190, great route runner. Cam Ward's looking better and better each day. They bought him with a good contract. I love Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley is a guy that you can have for a 2 or 3 year team and be comfortable with, I feel like. Bashal Tutin, I'm very divided with this guy. The content I consume, they want you to buy. I don't think I'm on board with the buy of Bashal Tutin. And the reason why I say that is because he's a very straight line runner. He's very fast. I do understand all the above. I don't think he's a worse Etienne. So it's like, if Etienne is the guy that I think he is, and the rebound that I think is coming with Etienne, then Bashal Tutin is totally useless to this team. And I feel like he's a nothing to this team. So Javonte Williams, I feel like is a good pick at the 15 spot. Maybe you can get some weeks out of him. Obviously, Jaden Blue is there. Miles Sanders is there. I really don't know who the running back is. And honestly, I don't care who the running back is there because they're going to throw the ball so much this year with Dak Prescott. They have CeeDee Lamb. They have George Pickens. They have Jake Ferguson. They have so many weapons in that offensive side. Even Tolbert proved to be a good weapon last season. So it feels like they're just going to throw the ball quite a bit and not run it very much. So I don't really care who their running back is. Dallas Goedert, Shadur Sanders, Theo Johnson, Christian Kirk, Kendre Miller, Josh Palmer, Calvin Austin, Deontay Johnson, Jalen Polk, Jermaine Burton, Cade Stover, and Jacob Coing rounding it out. I do like the Coing pick quite a bit. If Pearsall misses time, Ayuk misses time, Coing could get some serious looks, honestly. So, coming to my team, we start off Malik Neighbors, Jalen Hurts, Brian Thomas. I'm just going to be real with you guys. I think my team, I'm trying not to be biased here, but I like my team a lot. I like my team a lot in this. We get Neighbors, Hurts, Thomas to start, which is a phenomenal start. Brock Purdy at the 410, which in my opinion is an extreme discount for what Brock Purdy should be. Brock Purdy should be a 3-4 turn and not a 4-5 turn. In my opinion, we're getting him a whole round later than what I feel like he should be. Then I went DJ Lagway at the 610. Chris Olave at the 703. I believe Chris Olave can be a rebound candidate. What has I get the injury aspect of it, but his situation, if anything, got a little better with Shuck. Not a whole lot, obviously. But there's potential this guy in 2026 is off this team entirely. If he gets off this team entirely, this is a guy who could seriously move up to this 4th round, 5th round. And I truly believe that. Olave in the 7th round is just ridiculously low. And I get the concern with the concussions. I do. If he gets one more concussion, he has to start questioning whether he can play football again or not. But I just think he's a really good pick. 8-10, Lanorris Sellers. So I got Lanorris Sellers and DJ Lagway on this team. I truly believe that is one of the most exciting things I could possibly say out loud. I have potentially 2 of the quarterback ones that are in their classes, respectively. and it just feels really good to me. Ayuk, I'm a big Ayuk fan at the 903. I think Ayuk is due for a bounce back once he gets healthy. A lot of positive news coming out of camp with his performance so far and coming back. I do like Ayuk as a pick here in the 9th round. Tyreek Hill in the 10th round. I did trade up to get Tyreek. I feel like that's way too cheap. Tyreek Hill probably still has 2 or 3 years left in the tank. And realistically, the speed was still there. It was his catching ability. His catching ability was not there. He had a fractured wrist. We all know that now. I feel like he has a few years in the tank still. Kamara, I feel like, is a cheap RB that could have RB1 upside. Obviously, he's going to be in his age 30 season this year. That is rough. We don't really have the running backs here at all. Tucker Kraft, Mark Andrews. At the 13-10, I want to say this was Darius Taylor. I took Darius Taylor there at the 13-10 for next year's class as a running back, and then I also took Aaron Jones. Hopefully, Kamara lasts a couple years. That's kind of the hope. And then in 26 first-round picks next year, we get a guy who can be decent at running back. So moving on to the next picks here, we take Terrence Ferguson at the 15-02. One of my favorite rookie tight ends this year. Probably actually my favorite rookie tight end. Not named Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland is Terrence Ferguson. And I think he should be a lot closer to those guys than we're giving him credit for. Very good landing spot. Gets to play with Stafford. Is basically Higbee's replacement. I'm just going to flat out say it. If Higbee's horrible to begin the year, Terrence Ferguson is going to get his looks. And I think it's a very good fit for him. Darnell Mooney is kind of just a fit in for Ayuk kind of play until Ayuk gets healthy. Pat Bryant at the 1903. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Denver fan, as you could see from the hat, if y'all couldn't tell. I wasn't a huge fan of this pick when we did it. I get it now. I do think he does play in our offense a little bit this year. I think he's a pretty decent upside swing. Jalen Wright off the board there. And then we see Devy picks kind of going off here, and then Hollywood Brown, which those Devy picks, I believe, if I recall correctly, are Katron Allen and Le'Veon Moss. So I took a couple more jabs at running back. You'll see I took quite a bit of jabs at running back with these Devy picks because I have to at the end of the day. So, and then my last Devy pick here is Elijah Surratt out of Indiana. Like I said, being an Indiana guy, living in Indiana, you get to watch them a lot more than a lot of the other college teams. And Surratt is really, really good. Good hands. Didn't have a very good quarterback. He's not very fast, but very good route runner. Good hands. Wins a lot of 50-50 balls, which to me is huge. Good athlete. I'm excited to see the IU Hoosiers this year in football, which is very rare to say, but I do think they are a pretty good team. And then we started following up with more running backs here. Algier, Roshan. We take Zach Ertz in the 25th round, who honestly still could be very viable as a playing person. Kirk Cousins could end up somewhere else, could not. We never know. Austin Eckler, another guy who was actually pretty good last season. Obviously, he's on the tail end of his career, but he honestly was surprisingly efficient last year with the little bit that he did get. They didn't draft anybody back there that really threatens him, so I feel good about that. I took Devon Vele here in the 28th round just because I feel like him and Pat, we're basically having a fight here with Pat Bryant, Devon Vele, where the handing off of the torch, so to speak. Jordan Watkins is a guy that I'm just taking a chance on. We'll see what happens. Maybe he gets a role, maybe he doesn't. That's what these guys kind of are. Khalil Mullings, Mac Jones, and Luke Musgrave in the very last round. That, to me, felt extremely good to get Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft, because now you have this Green Bay situation kind of locked up at tight end if something happens to Kraft. If something happens to Kraft or they trade Luke Musgrave, I feel like one of them shoots up in value and one of them is an instant starter. So it's like you could end up with two starters there. You could not. Who knows? But yeah, my team is probably the favorite team of this, but I'm trying not to be biased, but starting Neighbors, Hurts, Thomas, Purdy is just insane to me. I feel like it's a really good value. Hurts at the 110 is insane value. Purdy at the 410 is insane value. And then you got Lagway and Sellers to follow it up. And you still got receivers that are functional. and you're hoping that you can get a running back or two to squeeze out here. And you can always trade rookie picks later for running backs. So that's kind of where my head is. Crasher, we're on the last two. Bijan Robinson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Justin Herbert, which in my opinion was the reach of the draft. I think at the 206, that's kind of crazy. In a Greg Roman offense, you're never going to see this guy get upside of top 10 finishes. It's going to be tough for him to get to top 10. Just is. Last year was extremely efficient, 23 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and he still was not in the top 10. So that to me is it's just rough. Jonathan Taylor at the 411. Cam Ward at the 502. Zay Flowers at the 605. His Devy picks, let's go to his Devy picks real quick, are Bryce Underwood, the 2028 class, which is that first one. Ryan Wingo, which I do like Ryan Wingo quite a bit. Let's see. Keelan Russell. He's pretty good too. I'm okay with that. Nick Harbor, which I really wanted Nick Harbor in this draft. I'm a huge Nick Harbor fan. If the right team gets a hold of Nick Harbor, look out. Bo Jackson, another running back from a later class, the 28 class. So he's kind of doing the 28 class thing. Not huge on it, but like I said, it is what it is. Dalton Kincaid, Keon Coleman, Brian Robinson, Trey Benson. I do like Trey Benson a lot just because I did believe in him as a prospect coming out. And I think James Conner, this is it for him. Durability issues are probably going to catch up to him. Geno Smith, it's kind of like a whatever pick. Kate Otten is fine. Najee, Devin Neal, DJ Giddens, Harquez Hunter, Gesicki, Dante Thornton's getting a lot of hype in camp. 6'5", 204, super speedy. Working with the starters. Could take the Trey Tucker role, which honestly, I don't know how likely that is. We'll see. Could happen, could not. We'll see. Gadsden, he's also getting a lot of hype from Chargers camp. I like Gadsden quite a bit. Ty Felton, kind of whatever pick once again. Weddington Slayton, Tez Johnson. I like Tez Johnson coming out of college, but I don't like where he landed, obviously. Sam Howell, Miles Sanders, Hunter Renfrow, and then his last round selection here was his Devy pick. So, overall, not a terrible team. Not really sure what the direction is here. He kind of takes Jonathan Taylor, who, in my opinion, can be a rebuild kind of piece, but not really the guy I'd be looking to take. Instead, I would be looking at a quarterback like J.J. McCarthy or something. Odunze, even. That fits a little better. Even Higgins probably fits a little better than Taylor. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Zay Flowers at the 605. I'm not a big Zay Flowers guy. Personally, I just don't really see what his upside is in the Ravens offense. Kincaid is fine. I think Kincaid is still young. Kincaid was injured last year, we found out. So I think there's some upside there. Takes Kincaid and Coleman. Coleman, to me, is probably a nothing at this point. I know I'm saying that when he's only 22. I wasn't big on Coleman anyways. The only reason Keon Coleman ever shot up boards was his situation. He is a receiver tied to Josh Allen, and that will always shoot you up boards. If you put Keon Coleman on literally almost any NFL team other than the Bills, he would probably be a 15th rounder or may not even be in the NFL. Honestly, I'm not a huge fan of Keon Coleman. Robinson, Benson, I already talked about Benson a little bit. So this team probably isn't one of my favorites either. I'd probably say right now the top 3 that I like. Actually, let's just do this first. Let's do his team, and then we'll go with that. Jahmyr Gibbs, CeeDee Lamb, CJ Stroud, Kyron Williams, Tet McMillan, George Pickens, Tua, Xavier Worthy, and then we need to get to his Devy picks as well, which are the following. So hard to read this list. If you guys could see it, you would understand. Let's see. Denzel Boston is his first one. Let's see. CJ Baxter. Kenyon Sadiq, Austin Simmons, Berrien Brown. Okay, so those are his Devy picks. We were required to take 6, so if some of these I didn't read 6, it's because they're not on the list for some reason. Like I said, there was a few missing, so yeah. Anyways, Evan Ingram, Jonnu Smith, Jalen Warren, Jawan Jennings, Cooper Kupp, which Cooper Kupp in the 17th, I think he still has a little bit of juice. I'd prefer Diggs to Kupp, but it's pretty close. Ramondre, Will Howard, Cole Kmet, which, like I said, I think Cole Kmet in the 23rd round, he gets dealt after this offseason. He might get a chance to play again. James, pretty good handcuff pick for CMC, a guy who's always injured. Alec Pierce, Noah Gray, Jerome Ford, Luke McCaffrey, Jaleel McLaughlin, Phil Mafah, Will Levis, and Devin Singletary. Overall, pretty good team here, actually. I like Gibbs. I like Lamb. I like McMillan. I like Stroud a decent enough amount. I think he's a little too expensive still for what he is. But I do like that overall. Kyron Williams at the 412. George Pickens, Xavier Worthy. So his receiver room is Lamb, Tet, Worthy, Pickens. I like that quite a bit. And Jennings as a 5th guy. Pretty nice overall because you're giving Tet maybe some time or Worthy some time to develop. Kyron as your RB2 next to Jahmyr Gibbs. Tua as your other quarterback. If Tua stays healthy, this team is pretty good. If Tua doesn't stay healthy, obviously you're struggling at quarterback quite a bit. So that's a little bit worrisome, but, take that for what it is. Overall, I think the top 3 teams are my team, Sawyer's team, and D. James's team. Those are the 3 teams I probably like the best build-wise because I can see a clear direction with a lot of them. I kind of see what they're doing. I like Parkton's team for sort of what he did here. Probably my least favorite team is TJ. I just think it's too old. I think there's too many old pieces here. And I think after a year, maybe 2, he's going to struggle quite a bit. And I don't love building like this in Devy at all, unless you have elite picks, and he doesn't. So that, to me, he really has to nail his picks, and I don't really love that. So that's kind of where I'm at. But yeah, that's kind of the Devy draft that we just finished. So that's pretty much everything I had. If you guys want to see more of this type of content, leave a comment down below. If you guys enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. And hopefully we'll have more content. Obviously, you could see down below, there is a code for drafters. I am partnered and affiliated with drafters. So if you guys use code KG when signing up, they will match dollar for dollar up to $100. And they have best ball contests on there as well. We'll be back again sometime this week for best ball content. I am off work at least 3 days this week. So that's good news. So we'll be able to rip some drafts, do some things there. But yeah, this is what the Devy board looks like. I'm at least kind of giving you guys an overview here of what the first 17 rounds look like. And I did show you guys all the way through. So I'll go ahead and do this as well. Show this side so you guys can have that as well. Pause your videos. Look through this. Kind of give yourselves a moment here to look it over. But yeah, this is what the board looks like for now. There's some things I agree with, some things I disagree with. And here in a few weeks, we will do this again with the second Devy draft. And you guys can kind of compare and contrast kind of what it looks like. I'll show you guys real quickly what it looks like currently. I don't want to spoil anything, but right now we're at the 10:08. So this is the first 10 rounds of that draft. I'm not really going to go into in deep at all. So my team right now currently is Trey McBride, Nico, Bo Nix, Tet, Dak, Jonathan Taylor, Caleb Johnson, DJ Lagway, and Ricky Pearsall yet again. I did trade my first round pick in CD for Jonathan Taylor and Nico Collins. It just made sense to do. So yeah. But yeah, anyways, that's going to do it for me. If you guys enjoyed, like I said, make sure y'all drop a like and subscribe down below. I'll be back with more content very, very soon. Until next time, I am off here, and I will see you guys later. Have a blessed night, day, wherever you're at. Peace.